All right, so it's time to meet the builders of our homes for WiT's Singapore. We have Vimal Gungadin, who's the CEO of GEVME and Global Sign-In, who built our home for the roadshow and then helped us move into the Marina Bay Sands' new virtual meeting place. And we have Yaron Lipshitz, who's the CEO of AllSeated EXVO, who built the 3D home of Sky Park by AJ Hackett, which will be the host for our homecoming reception tomorrow evening, and that platform will be unveiled tomorrow afternoon. So wait for that unveiling. So join me on the stage, Vimal, and we have Yaron dialing in. Vimal. Vimal, I think you're seated here.
Seated there?
Yes.
All right.
Unless you want to stand.
I've been told to move there.
So it's interesting in the last panel when we were talking about the investment trends, right? And when Susli was talking about the boxes being ticked at one was sustainability, hyper-localized experiences, Gen Z, and content creation. And event technology, which has been the breakout tech during COVID, absolutely meets those four criteria. So we want to find out the stories from these two founders. So let's start with Vimal. All right, and Vimal, you started actually as an event registration service, which is how people know event tech in the old days. And then you built the virtual platform 5 years ago. So maybe you knew the pandemic was coming. But anyway, how has your business transformed since COVID brought physical events to a standstill?
Well, the first thing to note is, as what you mentioned, so we started off with registration. So physical events was a big component of that. So last year, everything to do with the on-site component of our business, 95% of it was gone, right? So we had to change. We had to change almost overnight. And I think one of the big thing that we did was we embraced the change, and we embraced the change early on. It was probably a little bit easier for us to do because we're a tech company, but overnight we just became a remote company. So we used to say, hey, this is the Singapore team, the India team, the Philippines team. So we no more had all of this. It was just one team, right?
Okay.
So in terms of communication, we started embracing asynchronous communication. We didn't need to get on a call across different time zones to make decisions, but it was all done on Slack, right? So these changes then allowed us to move fast.
So it changed the way you work, which absolutely kind of changed the way you actually created a new business out of it. So Yaron, AllSeated actually started in 2014. Right, and your intention was to digitalize and visualize the events industry, and COVID gave you an opportunity to push that further, and you launched EXVO, which is a 3D virtual world in which avatars network with each other, and people will experience that tomorrow. What was the thinking behind this idea, Yaron?
Sure. So prior to COVID, our event visualization products were really already providing the core functionality to create a venue digital twin. So kind of think about it as seeing an event before it happens, something that you can really lay out in a couple of minutes, maybe an hour. Now, venues and planners were using it to do anywhere from the 2D floor planning all the way to 3D photorealistic virtual tours of events. So I was at Cater Source in Vegas on March 11, 2020, and I saw our industry friends and partners literally in tears, as all their events were getting canceled and all the devastation. And when we saw the disruption that's happening in the market, we wanted to bring something unique to the market that would be inherently a hybrid solution, because that would help our industry friends to gain a piece of the digital pie, but also offer something that was very unique in a market that was really dominated by Zoom-like platforms. So we always joked about, running actual events in our platform, and COVID really kind of accelerated that and made that happen. Now we're really the only real 3D platform that connects to the actual venues.
All right. Okay. So the two of you, during this period, you're like the COVID breakout guys, right? So Vimal was just recognized by the North Star Meetings Group, which is part of the WiT's family, as one of 15 people who made an impact during this period. And AllSeated EXVO, you won the Best Event Technology winner at the 11th Global Event Tech Award. So congratulations. Now, name me one thing about events that has changed forever. One thing about events that has changed forever.
The digital component. Yeah.
Yaron?
Scale.
Okay. And what has not changed forever?
Most of it has not. Like the reasons to go for an event. You go to learn, that hasn't changed. To connect with people, that hasn't changed. And maybe to get business.
Okay. Yaron, what has not changed?
One of the things that's not going to change is the notion of experience. This is something that will remain, whether it's in the physical or virtual one. There's always be a distinction between kind of the simple content that's being, streamed and a real experience, which is what events are all about.
Okay, so as an event organizer, my teams has worked with both your teams to basically move into your homes that you've created, right? It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work behind the scenes, but you guys have been fantastic. That's the AllSeated EXVO. We're giving you an unveiling a little bit for tomorrow. And with the Marina Bay Sands new virtual meeting place, which you're experiencing right now, that's still the AllSeated EXVO, and then the next one is this. This was just given to us on Thursday to move in, right? So a lot of new skills are needed, right? And so how are you working with the industry to have people with new skills move in? Otherwise, people are not going to use this technology because it's hard.
Yeah, so that's the whole part of learning. So on our side itself, we've been investing quite a bit of time and money in building educational materials, right? We've basically created a new course. We call it the Digital Event Manager course, and we've partnered locally here in Singapore with Nanyang Polytechnic to deliver that for event professionals and those doing the diplomas. And that's how I see things can happen from ground up. But at the industry level, so we believe a lot in partnerships, right? So we don't see ourselves as a Zoom where you just sign up and then you get going within 5 minutes without customizations. We see ourselves as an enterprise platform providing limitless customizations for brands. And that requires like creative people, digital event managers coming into play. And we're working with the industry, one, to train them, but to empower them. And that's what we're doing, for example, with MBS here.
Right. I mean, Yaron, it definitely takes a lot of human capital. As intuitive as your tools are in the back end to create, and the same with GEVME, it takes a lot of human capital, right? So how do you convince event organizers to do hybrid? Because actually hybrid is almost 3 times the work. And if you're lucky, you may even only get half the return. So why should they bother?
Well, I think the answer is very simple. I mean, you can serve attendees the plain chicken or pasta because it's really easier and cheaper to do so, right? You can give attendees what they really want, which is, gourmet food and innovative drinks. You can add fancy lighting, to the costumes, great music, or you can keep it boring, right? I think that everyone that is here in this event, I don't think that you go to that many boring events anymore, and with plain food, right? And if you do, then what do you think about them? So virtual events will be no exception to that. They will have to be an experience because events are not just a meeting or a webinar. And you want to create something memorable, right? You want to connect someone with a brand, steer some emotions with people, let people enjoy themselves, network, feel connected, and have a sense of presence. And I think that, that requires more work than a simple Zoom. I agree 100% with Vimal. This is not a Zoom solution. And I love Zoom, I use it all the time, but the benefits in terms of engagement and outcome are tremendous. And when you combine that with the scale, being able to reach any person at any geography, well, then the ROI is way, way higher.
Right. So can you give me one example of monetization? Like how have some of the organizers you worked with been able to monetize successfully virtual or hybrid events? Vimal?
Well, lots of...
Other than WiT.
Other than WiT, yeah. So it's an experimentation that's going on. I don't think anybody has really cracked it, but there's lots of different ways it's happening. Conferences is being associated with education. So lots of conferences now are giving out certifications. So you pay an extra amount of money, you can get certified, let's say for topics along fintech. And then the content of the conference then stay on. Right? And then the certifications stay on. So basically, it's really like something that is ongoing. So associations are trying out this model. Large conferences are trying out. So that seems to be working.
Okay.
That's one example.
All right. Yaron? Have you?
So I think that you're correct in pointing out that monetization is really one of the biggest challenges for virtual events. Absolutely. Sponsors and exhibitors really, they can't make it work in the 2D world because the format is really not built for that. And I agree with that. But when you do move into an experience, and specifically in the 3D world, what we've learned is that there's absolutely ways that you can monetize better. And we've given people the tools, for example, to build different size virtual booths, and they charge differently for that. We know that exhibitors that went into the virtual booth that we created actually generated a lot of leads because the experience was very similar to the real world. So, like in the real world, monetization does require, in my opinion, something that's more than just text or more than Zoom. Like it will require, people and attendees to feel comfortable with that.
Okay, so with AllSeated, what I see with this 3D virtual world that you've created now, if a venue has created that world, then basically it lives on forever, and then it's up to the venue to then create content all the time, right? To keep it going. And the same with I think the Marina Bay Sands, which we'll talk about later. But they've launched this virtual meeting place to be always on, 365 days, 24 hours engagement. So that means that every company has the potential to become a media company, basically to create content and have it within their platform. But again, that's more media. Venues do not know how to create content. How do you bridge the two?
Well, the thing about media, I think that's the future of marketing. There used to be an era where it was all about inbound marketing, content marketing. So now it's moving towards media. So I think that's the big picture of it. So that's the right move for venues to do. Now the question is, are venues are organizers and equipped with the people to create this content, engage the community? That's the big question. And they may not be, because that's really specialist skill. And that's where partnerships, I see, might be forming.
Okay. And Yaron, you've been building digital venues for a few years, and it's only now with the 3D. Have you seen any organizations, any venues, any corporates using your virtual world to house their content and to be always on? Have you seen anybody make that shift?
Yes, we have a few clients that did that. And I think that right now, just to go back to your earlier question, I think that venues do have a golden opportunity right now to really tap into a completely new revenue stream from digital, right? They have an opportunity to provide a virtual extension of their venue. And they can make a lot of money, high margin money from that if they're smart about it. And I agree with Vimal. This is going to have to be a partnership. This is going to have to be, and we have a lot of designers and planners in the US, Michael Cerbelli and David Merrill and Kristen Banta, people that basically came in and the venue provided the venue and they provided the design and the production capabilities. And really made it all happen. So again, this is an event. We have a lot of hands in the pot, and people are doing, everything to make it happen. And virtual events are going to be no exception to that.
So you can actually almost see corporates. Let's take Amadeus. Okay, I pick up an example. Amadeus creating a virtual meeting place for their customers, and they just keep the content, and then their customers come in and network anytime through the year. Or a consumer brand like, let's say, I will pick up Booking.com, for example, that could create its own community. You could see it going that way. All right.
That's the future.
Okay, that's the future. Okay. All right, let's come to money. Okay, so AllSeated EXVO, you raised $25 million, and GEVME, you remain self-funded. How you managed? So how do you both see your exits, given event tech is seeing pretty crazy valuations right now? Yaron.
So I was, prior to being the CEO of AllSeated, I was an M&A banker for a really long time. I worked at Morgan Stanley, Lehman Brothers, and other banks. And the one thing that I'm a firm believer in is really you have to, as a CEO, you have to really focus on building a great business, a business that grows, a business that has, good fundamentals. And if you have a good product with happy customers, that would fuel the growth and eventually a great exit. I think that if you don't, of course you may get lucky and, the markets could be crazy, but, we're really focused on building a business here and,
okay,
the exit will come.
What about you, Vimal? Still self-funded? Are you going out for some fundraising?
Yeah, so we've been self-funded, and I think that gave us the freedom, the flexibility to really focus on the product in a time where we had to make difficult changes, reiterate, go back to decisions we've made. And we've ended up building not necessarily what people were looking for, but what we saw as a future. And then we build it, and now people are saying, yes, that's what I wanted. And that has been great. So we have been growing through that phase. But yes, now it comes to a point where, in fact, we are fundraising.
All right. Okay. So you heard it here. All right. So let's go to an audience poll. I'm going to ask you, do you think all events should have a virtual component when all this is over? Okay. Yes. It gives you scale. 2, no, we've missed physical, let's focus on the human element. Or C, I'd like to give virtual a break for a while, but it's here to stay. So pick your answer. So I want to ask the two guys here, because at the start of the pandemic, it was 100% swing to virtual because we had no choice, right? But now that places where physical events have returned, there has been an extreme swing back to physical. I've seen that in the US and Europe. And people saying, I'm tired of virtual. Where do you see the equivalent landing in, say, 2 years' time?
So I'll probably quote from somebody that I asked the same question to, and that's Edward Liu in Singapore. He's very well known to be like the exhibition man. He's been around for the longest time. So I asked him the same question. And his answer is, in 3 years' time, that's what I asked him, in 3 years' time, in the world of exhibitions, he sees digital, he sees virtual staying there and being probably equivalent to 25% of revenue of the total exhibition. And that 25%, the benefit here is that this could be a new revenue stream.
Okay.
So I thought coming in from such an industry
25% for exhibitions, that's interesting. Okay, Yaron, what do you think?
I think that it really depends on the use case. Some events will be 100% virtual because it's more efficient. Some will be 100% physical because, again, the use case, if it's an intimate party, of course, it's going to be more like that. I think that over 50% of events will have a hybrid strategy of some sort, longer term.
All right. Let me ask the audience here in front of me, right? Do you prefer hybrid? Do you think events will all be hybrid from now on? Hands up. Okay, we're seeing the majority of events. So if you had to choose between physical and virtual, and knowing now, virtual is getting better, right? There are some people who might actually say, oh, it's more convenient. I can sit in the toilet and watch, Siew speak, right? Would you come, right? So physical or virtual if you had a choice? Physical? Okay, virtual? Okay, 1 or 2 hands coming up for virtual. So clearly, virtual does give the convenience. I mean, we have delegates who've signed up, but they say, okay, Siew, we're going to watch you virtually, some sessions on demand. So that's kind of all the benefits. And I think it's the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah. So maybe I should ask you a question.
You want to ask me a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So last year you did the WiT hybrid. It was super difficult to do. This year you did WiT hybrid as well. Equally, probably a little bit less difficult, but still. Next year, is that something you would still be doing? Hybrid?
Next year, I hope to have more people in the audience without masks, where we can all network between cohorts, because I think the limitation right now for events in Asia is because of our local restrictions, and we are not allowed to network as much as we can. But I think once we can get back to normal networking, right, I think physical will be back with a rush. But I think Singapore is still taking slow steps towards that. Yeah. So we will see bigger physical, but definitely we will also see virtual. And in fact, already thinking about doing this constant content engagement, I think.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Okay, now I get to ask the question, wrap up, 1-word answer. Yaron, biggest takeaway from working with WiT, and be nice.
Fun people to work with.
Okay. You?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. Okay. Biggest thing I had to unlearn. Yaron.
Working in an office with people.
3D, I thought didn't work. 3D works.
Yes, I remember early on you said 3D didn't work, and now, okay. I like that. I like that we can change. Biggest thing that I had to learn, Yaron.
Biggest thing?
You had to learn through this.
forming strong relationships with colleagues over Zoom.
Thinking slow sometimes in order to move faster. Yeah.
Right. You know, the most popular book right now is Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. I think that's sort of the hot book during COVID right now. All right. And the biggest thing that corporates who are attending this and also event organizers need to learn during this period, Yaron.
Absolutely. Fusing digital into every step in the event lifecycle, anywhere from the booking, planning, delivery, post-event, everything is going to have a digital component to it.
Okay, that sounds like the leisure travel booking experience that people are building in our industry, right? I mean, it's very similar. Vimal.
I would say even to start thinking a digital first strategy for events. Yeah.
All right, for events. Okay. Thank you so much, Yaron. We're looking forward to networking on your EXVO Sky Park tomorrow. And thank you so much for the work helping us move in so quickly. We've never done it so quickly before. Thank you, Vimal and Yaron. Thank you.